Welcome to Celestial Zodiac, your home for clear and grounded astrology. In this video, we're taking a deeper look at the lunar nodes by exploring the difference between natal nodes and transiting nodes, along with nodal returns and eclipses. A transiting node is simply the current moving position of the lunar nodes in the sky right now, as opposed to where they were when you were born, which is your natal node. This is where timing starts to make sense and why certain periods in your life feel more intense, why direction shifts happen, and why sometimes everything seems to change all at once. Your natal nodes are fixed in your birth chart and represent your lifelong themes. They show your comfort zone, your growth path, and the patterns you're here to work with over time. Your transiting nodes, on the other hand, are always moving and reflect collective lessons that everyone experiences, but in different areas of life depending on their chart. This is where confusion often happens because people expect something major to occur just because of a transit. But transits don't act on their own. They activate what already exists in your chart. Your natal nodes show your direction, while transiting nodes show when certain parts of that path become more active or more noticeable. Transiting nodes are constantly moving through the zodiac, completing a full cycle in about 18 to 19 years and spending roughly 18 months in each sign. As they move, they shift the overall direction of growth for the collective, bringing attention to certain themes that everyone experiences in different ways depending on their chart. Rather than creating events on their own, transiting nodes act more like a background influence, highlighting where change, development, or release is taking place. They become more noticeable when they interact with your natal chart, especially during key periods like nodal returns or oppositions, when personal growth themes are activated more strongly. A nodal return happens when the transiting north node returns to the same position it held at the time of your birth. This marks a major realignment with your life path. During these periods, you may feel pulled in a new direction, pushed out of old patterns, or more aware of what needs to change. It's not always dramatic on the surface, but internally, it often represents a turning point. About halfway through the cycle, you experience a nodal opposition, when the transiting nodes move into the opposite signs of your natal nodes. This can feel intense because it highlights the tension between your comfort zone and your growth path. You may feel pulled backward and forward at the same time or confronted with patterns you thought you had already moved past. But this isn't a setback. It's a course correction. These cycles tend to show up at key points in life. Around the ages of 18 to 19, the first nodal return often coincides with major life transitions, such as leaving home, graduating, or beginning to define your identity. Even if the situation looks different for each person, there is usually a clear shift in direction, where life starts moving away from what feels familiar and toward something new. For example, someone who has been relying heavily on family or a structured environment may suddenly feel the need to make their own decisions and define who they are independently. It can feel uncertain or uncomfortable, but it often marks the beginning of stepping into their own path and taking more control over their life direction. Around 37, the second nodal return can bring a deeper reassessment of direction, including career, relationships, or overall life path. A good example of a second nodal return is someone who has built a stable career or life path but begins to feel like something is missing. On the surface, everything may look successful. They may have a steady job, a long-term relationship, or a structured routine, but internally there can be a growing sense of misalignment. This might lead them to question their direction, consider a career change, end or redefine a relationship, or pursue something that feels more meaningful. It's not always a sudden external shift, but more of an internal realization that the path they've been on no longer fully reflects who they are. This period often marks a turning point where they begin to realign their life with a deeper sense of purpose. Around 55 to 56, the third nodal return often reflects a more mature realignment, where you begin letting go of what no longer fits and moving toward what feels more meaningful. A third nodal return is a period where life begins to shift toward meaning rather than obligation. By this stage, many people have already built careers, raised families, or followed a certain path for decades, and there is often a growing awareness of what truly matters versus what was done out of responsibility or expectation. This can show up as stepping away from roles that no longer feel aligned, such as changing careers, reducing work commitments, or reevaluating long-standing relationships. Some people may feel drawn to pursue personal interests, creative outlets, or spiritual growth that they didn't have time for earlier in life. Others may simplify their lives, letting go of unnecessary pressure or external validation. It's not always about dramatic change, but more about refinement, choosing what feels authentic and meaning. This period often brings a clearer sense of direction, where decisions are less about proving something and more about living in alignment with who they have become. These shifts occur because the nodes are cycling you back to your original path, but with more awareness each time. Now that we've covered nodal returns and how they mark key turning points over time, the next piece to understand is how these themes get activated in shorter, more concentrated periods. This is where eclipses come in. While nodal returns reflect long-term cycles of growth and realignment, eclipses act as trigger points along that same path. They bring the energy of the nodes into the present moment, often accelerating change, highlighting important themes, and making certain shifts more visible in your life. Eclipses are directly tied to the lunar nodes and occur when the sun and moon align near them. This is why eclipse periods often feel more intense or significant. Eclipses act as activation points that can bring sudden changes, realizations, endings, or beginnings. They often connect back to your nodal themes and can highlight areas of growth or release. North node eclipses tend to feel like openings or new directions. They can bring opportunities or situations that push you forward into growth. South node eclipses, on the other hand, are more about release. They can bring endings, closures, or situations where something needs to be let go. Neither is good or bad. They are simply different parts of the same process. Eclipse seasons often feel intense because they activate the nodal axis, directly bringing things to the surface more quickly than usual. You may notice heightened emotions, sudden shifts, or a sense that things are moving faster than expected. But just like with the nodes themselves, this isn't random. It's part of a larger cycle of growth, adjustment, and realignment. When you understand the difference between natal and transiting nodes, the timing of nodal returns, and the role of eclipses, things start to feel less random and more like a pattern. Your natal nodes show your path. Transits show when that path is activated, and eclipses mark moments where change becomes more visible. When you begin to see how these pieces work together, you stop asking why things are happening and start understanding where they are leading. Thank you for watching Celestial Zodiac. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.